Hi guys, I know that I've been a little out of touch and I apologize for that. I think if, as of now, which is Friday, February 3rd, I posted the slides for chapters 1, 2, 3, 1, 1, 2, and 3. And I thought it would be good to give you a lecture, not too dissimilar to the lectures that I do in class. Just be patient here. This is definitely this is a homemade video here. Anyway, I thought it'd be helpful to explain things beyond the book so you're not just dependent on the book. So the first chapter is really just the background, really very much a background look at marketing and overall look at marketing. You'll see the classes divided up. The first 5 chapters are pretty much introduction and background, and then the going forward, the other chapters are divided up into, first we talk about product, then we talk about pricing, placement, and promotion, which is the marketing mix, which we'll see as we go along. So, okay, let's get going. And if you have any questions, please contact me. Okay, so the first thing I want you to think about, so here we go, environmental changes impacting marketing. So I just want you to think about how life is different now than it was, say, 150, 170 years ago. Um, we had this very agrarian economy. Let me see, I'm sorry about this. Environmental changes impacting marketing. There we go. Is that better? That's worse? I don't know. Um, how people lived, what people did, if people had leisure time or not. When I talk about living situations, we talk about living with who you lived with, who your influences were. Now we see many, many people around us. In previous time periods, you only were surrounded by your family, which influences what you're going to buy. The type of economy it is that we've really now very much in a want economy as opposed to a need economy. And we'll learn a little bit more about that. Leisure time, people didn't have a lot of leisure time to participate in hobbies, so to speak. Then they would not have bought those same kinds of items. Disposable income, people didn't. We've had a burgeoning economy really since the um, post World War II in America. I mean, there's always been money. There's really most of the 20th century. There's been a lot of money in the States, but uh, really post World War II and the growth of the middle class. So disposable income. Disposable income is the amount of income you have left over after you um, pay all your bills. Communication, how we communicate. You can see how that's moved through. Initially there was print, and then there was after there was print, there was radio, and then we moved into television. And of course, print was growing and growing all this time, and then we moved to television. Now, of course, we're in the digital age, so that's influenced. And then transportation, just ability to receive, to have goods from all over the world at our doorsteps. And then finally, technology. Technology has influenced not only how we communicate, but also how products are made. Most recently, the advent of digital printing. Okay, moving on. I want to define marketing. 2 things. Let me just adjust this. I'm sorry. Is that better? I think that's a little better. We'll move this way. Hopefully not. Oops, sorry about that. Okay. So marketing essentially is creating value for customers and building strong relationships. So, for example, what is the value of a surfboard in Buffalo in January? Not so great. But the value of a shovel in Buffalo right now is quite high. So value comes in different ways. Value can be based on availability. It can be based on quality. It can be based on price. It can be based on variety, that kind of thing. So the goal is for marketers to try to figure out what is it that creates value for their customers. And then also you want to build strong relationships, and you want to get to know your customers almost better than your customers know themselves, to be honest with you. Sorry. Okay, moving on. So let's try to understand generally about the customer. There's this idea of, by the way, over and over again, we're going to go back to that slide. Hang on. Creating value for customers and building strong relationships. If anyone says, what are the 2 purposes and what are the 2 goals of marketing? Creating value and building relationships. And they go hand in hand, because you can't have, through building relationships, you understand what creates value. And by providing value, you build a relationship. Okay, so let's look at a couple of different things about customers. There are needs and there are wants. Needs is a state of felt deprivation. I'm hungry. Want is the form human needs take is they are shaped by culture and individual personality. Some people want a salad or a cheeseburger or a turkey dinner, and it also can be influenced. Different cultures eat different types of foods. Different countries eat different types of foods. So that's going to influence how people eat as well. What their choice is going to be. And then finally, demands are human wants backed by buying power. So you might all of a sudden find yourself with more money, so you can eat at a little nicer restaurant. But having said that, also could be personality could influence that in terms of some people are more frugal than others. Um, some people you know are comfortable spending money. Some people are not comfortable spending money. That kind of thing. So anyway, but it's this difference between want is a state of felt deprivation. A need, I'm sorry, need is a state of felt deprivation. Want is shaped by culture and in your personality, and then demand is based on how much money you have. Okay, some other basic terms. Market offerings are the combinations of products and services that someone that offered to a market to satisfy needs and wants. Marketing myopia, it's a mistake of spending more attention on the product than on the benefits and experiences. So, for example, saying, Facebook is a social network. Well, it is a social network, but really what it is it brings people together. Um, you could say that Mighty Taco sells tacos and burritos, but in fact, many places sell tacos and burritos. What is it that makes Mighty Taco different? Mighty Taco, you know, creates an opportunity for people to come to eat together. It's convenient. Um, it's got a relaxed atmosphere. So, as I said, market myopia, it's focusing too much on the product, which is oftentimes repeated, and not enough on the experience because people are looking for the experience and the benefits. And then finally, exchange, it's kind of just a basic term, obtaining an object by offering something in return, not too different from, it's essentially the same thing as price. Okay, market, set of all actual and potential buyers of a product or service. So, for example, diapers. Does everybody buy diapers? No. Is everybody ever going to buy diapers? No. So, the only people who buy diapers are parents. Who buys beer? Some people buy beer, some people don't buy beer. You can go through lawn care products. People live in apartments, don't buy lawn care products. Winter boots. People in the south and warmer climates don't buy boots. So the kind of the moral of this whole thing is, moral of the story on this whole thing is that rarely, if ever, when you're asked the question, what is the market for such and such a product, is the answer everyone. Because there are always ways to divide up markets, and that's a big thing that we'll spend a lot of time on talking about. How do people divide up markets? Okay, marketing management, art and science of choosing target markets and building profitable relationships with them. So that's the business side. Whoops, how are we going? What are we going to do here? There we go. Profitable relationships. Product concept is if you just produce a lot of stuff and get it out to every store, people will buy it. That production concept. Product concept is just continual product improvement, but that doesn't always necessarily look as to whether or not the customer wants those product improvements. And the selling concept, if you have a large selling effort and promotion efforts, then people will buy your product. You can have coupons, you can have sales, you can have rebates, but really ultimately what we are most interested in is this whole idea of the marketing concept, and that is all of these things working together, all the departments in the company working together, or in the firm working together to give the customer what they're really looking for, and again, to capitalize on those, what the values that how to create value for the customer, and then also what, getting to know them better to build that relationship. Now, another trend in marketing these days is this whole idea of the societal marketing concept. So it's consumer wants, matching consumer wants with society's interest and company profits. So all companies want to make money, right? Um, and but sometimes what consumers are looking for doesn't align with that. Lower prices, for example, or perhaps a special feature. And then society has interests in things as well. So take, for example, seatbelts in cars. Car companies don't necessarily want to put seatbelts in cars, but they do because it's in the society's best interest, and consumers want safety. So there's lots of examples of that. They usually fall into areas of environmental safety and environmental concerns, consumer safety and environmental concerns. Sorry about this. I don't know. Usually, when I've done these for other classes, I usually don't have such a hard time getting it straight. Okay, moving on. I talked about this before. This is how the class is divided up. These are the tactical look, the product, price, place, promotion. It's the marketing mix, also called the 4 Ps of marketing. We're going to hear that over and over and over again. So the goals of marketing, we talked about before, is creating value, and building strong relationships. And how do they do that? Through this tactical process of the 4 Ps. There we go. Product, price, place, promotion. Those 2 concepts are 2 of the most important concepts you're going to learn in this class. Building strong relationships and creating value. And how do they do that? Through the product, the price, the placement, or the distribution, and the promotion. Okay, now then. Building customer relationships over and over. I told you can hear a lot about that. So there are basically 2 building blocks to customer relationships. One is customer perceived value. So not everyone values things the same way. So let's take women's purses. I love talking about women's purses. The point of a women's purse is to safely carry things from one place to another. So what's the difference between a $50 women's purse and a $500 women's purse? $450. So in some instances, certainly, yes, there's quality issues and that kind of thing. But it's an issue of perceived value. Some people don't value that. Some people do. And then how satisfied the customer is. Because you want to make sure that customer satisfaction brings customers back. Okay, there's some more terms. Share of customer. Whoops. Apologize. Share of customer. Now, in customer equity, share of customer, you can't necessarily put a number on. It's just really a concept. So, do you always buy Apple products? Therefore, they have 100% share of your customers. So, do you always buy your groceries at Wegmans, or do you go to Tops, Wegmans, Price Right, and Aldi's? Do you move around? You always buy Honda. You always eat Purdue chicken. It's the idea of how loyal. It's also another way you could think about it as customer loyalty to the brand. All right, and then customer equity. You can quantify customer equity. Customer equity, for those of you who have taken accounting, I think you refer to it as goodwill when you sell a product. When you sell a firm, I take that back, when you sell a firm, the amount of goodwill a company has. So, for example, Volkswagen's had some problems recently with the emissions scandal that they went through. So once they had that problem with the emissions scandal, there became an issue with people trusting their product, and the goodwill of the company decreased. So that kind of thing. General Motors had the same kind of thing when they also had the Volkswagen was emission, General Motors was ignition. So anyway, goodwill. Okay, so you want to make sure you build relationships with the right customers. And there are, we measure that in terms of profit and loyalty. So there are butterflies. Butterflies are people that have long short-term loyalty, but they do provide a profit. So it's people who move around from place to place, but might not necessarily shop at your place, buy your product all the time. There's strangers. Those are people who have low profit and show low short-term loyalty. They're people who probably are not in the market for your product very much. People who don't have a need to buy baby clothes, maybe only buy them intermittently for a family member, but they don't buy them on a regular basis for themselves or for their family. So those are people who probably, they might buy your product, but not very often. True friends are the people who bring in high profit and there's long-term loyalty. We like to keep those folks. We like to know who those folks are. And that's done through, customer loyalty programs and frequent flyer cards and buy 5, get 1 free kind of things. And then finally, the barnacles. The barnacles are the people that suck off of you. Barnacles, as many of you may or may not know, are things that attach to the bottom of a boat. They have this strong adhesive, and you can't get rid of them. And they are the people who require a lot of customer service. They may be the people who return things quite often. Credit card companies. The barnacles for credit card companies are people who pay off every month because there's no way to make money on them. So there are different ways that if you pay your credit card off every month, the bank would consider you a barnacle. But don't feel bad about that. It's a good place to be a barnacle with your credit cards. Anyway, so um, they do things to encourage people to spend more money. They increase the credit limit. Maybe they shorten the time that you can pay it back. Whatever. Um, the barnacles are people they want to get rid of. So it's important to know who your customers are, so you know who to go after. And they manage all the relationships differently. Okay, and then finally, let's just talk about the changing marketing landscape. Uncertain economy, that's always sort of an issue. The economy ebbs and flows. Digital age, certainly, again, we talked about that before in terms of how we produce and how we communicate. There's rapid globalization, of course, over and over again, that we have opportunity to buy things from other countries, and you that we're all becoming one world now, and there's a disintegration of borders, which can be a good thing and a bad thing. Um, and it certainly promotes a lot of, it's much more competitive marketplace, that's for sure. The growth of not-for-profit marketing, we see it around all the time. You see ads on the television for the ASPCA and the Red Cross and all these places. Any nonprofit organizations include schools, um, churches, social service agencies, crisis services, Red Cross, places like that. So that's become uh, much more of a factor in competition. And then finally, sustainable marketing. Sustainability is the idea that you can provide for the needs of this generation without compromising the needs of the next. That has to do mostly with environmental issues, um, recycling, not using, using recycled products, not depleting natural resources, air, water, lumber, that kind of thing. So anyway, that sort of wraps up this the general introduction. So stay tuned for chapter 2, and I hope this was helpful. Thanks, guys.